address those costs and its own potential liability shall citizens proceed with any class action suits in response.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good afternoon. Yes, sir.
When each of you assumed office, you vowed to protect the people of Portland, their safety and their well-being. I feel let down. I feel sad, bereft, and even a bit frightened. I'm sad about the lack of an open democratic process. I feel bereft about a political system that does not guarantee fairness. And worst of all, I'm frightened. Frightened that the democratic impulse is fast draining from our republic. I didn't expect to see those principles set aside in the city of Portland. You're letting contracts for the deployment of 5G wireless technology throughout the city without sufficiently considering the health and safety of its inhabitants, without informing residents that this is taking place, without anything close to a town hall informational meeting. Indeed, in the two resolutions for letting wireless contracts with EXO and Singular, that is with Verizon and AT&T, the phrase 5G does not appear. That's worrisome to me, because I know it's going to happen. Mayor Wheeler, members of the council, Oregon Revised Statute 192.620 states explicitly, the Oregon form of government requires to inform the public aware of the deliberations and decisions of governing bodies and information upon which such decisions are made. It is the intent of ORS 192.6 that the decisions of governing bodies be arrived at openly. I've been a professor for close to 60 years. I've been a research professor for 60 years. When an experiment came to me in my classroom, the possibility of side effects affecting health and, in fact, other living things like birds, I would be remiss in not investigating. As a deeply concerned resident of the city of Portland who resents the lack of an open process and clear procedure, I have no choice but to file my complaint with the Office of Ombudsman pursuant to the city's charter, code, and policies, section 2549, voice my concerns about this precipitous procedure.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Anne Marie Glover. I'd first like to applaud Commissioner Nick Fish for making that law and other herbicides in the city off the table. I never knew this was even happening, like so much else. And so I applaud this measure. I would also urge you to ban pesticides from Portland schools, from city parks, all of them, and from Plainfields. On to the matter of 5G. EXO, as you know, the $1.8 million purchase by Verizon was created. One of its major reasons for having been created, and this merger or buyout or whatever it was with Verizon, was to accelerate 5G technologies, fifth generation wireless technologies. We have many concerns. The endeavor to push through and accelerate fifth generation wireless technologies, despite the fact that they have never been tested, something admitted to by this group here. And thus we're talking about a live experiment. Is an absolutely anti-political move. That is to say, it is not subject to the processes of politics. That is to say, challenge, contest, and negotiation. Perhaps it is for this reason that many politicians and others now simply turn to the very industries that will benefit financially from the installation of these new technologies. Such a retreat from what is obviously necessary can only result in catastrophe. One of the greatest dangers facing us today is an essential oblivion, as well as the obvious exemption of technology from the realm of thought. We have asked for study on the matter of 5G. We have asked for study sessions. We have asked for town halls. We have asked for delays for public input. We've asked that you let people know what you are doing with regards to this matter.
How much more time do you need to read your comments?
I have pages and pages. I would like
but
at
your
least
testimony, because you would have already been waiting a long time. How much additional time do you need?
probably a couple more minutes.
Mayor, could we give her an additional minute?
Sure.
We have asked for a moratorium on what this council along with the military, continues to call the deployment, people should pay attention to this term, the deployment of 5G and their concomitant technologies until further scientific, independent, non-industry funded study and research is carried out, and until common sense, rationality, and ethics take the place of fear, greed, and thoughtlessness, which when thousands of teachers, physicians, activists, scientists, environmentalists, and people across the country from all walks of life in the East demand. Given the consequences for ourselves and for all posterity, it's an eminently reasonable, absolutely necessary demand. Yet what we have seen in response to this call is, in my opinion, disingenuousness, obfuscation, falsehoods, and misdirection. We have not been seen, and we have not been heard. Not only have we not been seen and not heard, again, many people calling the city hall have been given false or misleading information. I'm sorry to say, but I find this absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you.
Mayor Mueller, point of personal privilege. Can I have 2 minutes to speak from my heart?
Actually, no, and you've done so very eloquently in the past, but I don't want to lose our quorum because we have to come back here shortly, and I don't want to
That's
lose the
unfortunate.
quorum.
That's really unfortunate.
Well,
Why does
I'm
a
sorry.
Verizon shield get almost unlimited time and actually concerned citizens
That is
have
actually,
to watch this
that is
call?
actually an employee of the city of Portland. She is the interim director.
No,
of
no,
the
I'm not
Office of
talking
Community
about Ms.
Technology.
Perez.
Your
I'm
time
not
is up.
talking about
Thank you.
Ms. Perez.
Please have your seat. Next
Also,
three,
you
please.
disrespect the people.
I'm not
here.
disrespectful.
No, no,
You
I
know the
disagree.
council rules.
I disagree.
Please, your time is up.
Why do you kick out activists and not other people?
You're a disabled telecom and you are people.
Why do you kick out activists and not other people?
Yes, exactly. If I were a Verizon shield, I would
Excuse
sit
me,
here all
you are in
day.
violation. I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I don't care.
David Morrison and Coleman Garrity.
You don't have to ask me to leave.
You don't have to ask me. I can't wait to get out.
Folks, you all had your chance at the microphone. Now let's give some other people the opportunity to be heard. Good afternoon. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Coleman Gary, and I oppose this measure 526 on a general principle against the involving telecommunications corporations in Portland proper.
This measure has been repeated 6 times, is that correct? If that is the case, then I think that we should reasonably assess the impact that that has had on our Portland community in ways that do not necessarily relate to 5G technology as such. If the corporation's impact on the Portland community has been beneficial, then absolutely the ordinance should be repeated. If that is not the case that it's been beneficial to the Portland community, then it should not be repeated. And I only ask that there are certain members of the Portland community to be recognized that the influence of corporations and technology on the city in general, on a general principle, is not being discussed, and that it should be brought up further in public commentary and community discussion. As Anne Marie very previously mentioned, although I do not think that this directly relates to 5G as a matter properly, it's a more general issue that occurs in the city regarding the involvement of technology and advertising on public streets and other similar issues. And so I see this as one instance of a broader phenomenon that needs to be addressed and not necessarily directly related to any new advancement in technology. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
David Morrison. The irony of the presentation before about the death of the birds was incredible, because it doesn't matter what steps you folks take, the rollout of 5G is going to kill many, many birds, insects, plants, and is harmful to all life itself. That is actually scientific. There is science behind that, many, many years. Now, the hiding behind the 1996 Telecommunications Act preemption is ridiculous. In Germany, there was a phrase that they used, "We're only doing what we're told." Many, many lives were lost because of that. You're only doing what you're told. However, I have some good news for you, because the states do not have to comply. There's an anti-commandeering doctrine that has longest established history in constitutional law. I suggest you look it up. Sandra Day O'Connor read one of the rulings. So some things you might not know about 5G is that currently the FCC safety standards are based on thermal effects, despite thousands of studies showing otherwise. The measurement used with current microwave technology is SAR, or specific absorption rate. With 5G, they're not going to use SAR because SAR is based on the heating of tissue, and they're going to use power density, which is not based on the heating of tissue, because 5G will heat tissue. The skin has capillaries that can sometimes cool tissue, but the eyes do not. I don't know if you're aware of this, and I don't know if you're also aware that the exposure that we will be getting is about 30 times higher than current 4G.
Thank you.
Also, throughout the industry now, they're saying...
Could I ask you to summarize your final points, please?
I'll summarize it, yeah.
Thank you.
Throughout the industry, they're saying, especially T-Mobile has been saying this, that 5G is not going to work. It's only going to be available to about 5% of the population, and they're going to be using 600...
Do you have any more testimony related to
600
this, or
megahertz.
this is not a...
Well, you guys are being...
All right, thank you.
fooled.
That is
And you are-
the end of public testimony. Thank you very much, colleagues. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I just would like to say that we don't have the luxury of not following the law. We promise to follow the law of the United States.
I can tell you that.
I'm sorry, your testimony is over. Thank you. Please have a seat.
Because
You're interrupting the commissioner. Please have a seat and you'll be asked to leave.
I share your concerns, and I think that the evidence suggests that there are health problems. We are not
I don't
supposed
have
to
to
that.
because I would do this.
Welcome to City Council meeting.
Did you have a Okay, good. I just have one comment. I always enjoy the public testimony period, especially when I learn something. And I felt that this morning, Commissioner Fish, I learned a tremendous amount by the public testimony we heard related to the presentation you gave. I'm just going to tell people honestly, when you come in here and you compare us to the Nazis at Nuremberg, where you say that our objective is ultimately to subvert democracy, that is not particularly useful or helpful testimony. And it's too bad, because I thought some of the people who were testifying actually made very good points, and I wanted to have the opportunity to have the conversation. In fact, in relation to 5G, which this ordinance is not related to, this council has taken a principled leadership stance at the national level regarding public health consequences of small cell wireless deployment. Moreover, this council has taken a leadership role nationally on the question of the role of local government in terms of managing their own public right-of-way. And so there's a lot of good work that we are doing related to the question of 5G. But this ordinance is not that. Any further discussion before I move this on? Very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. My understanding is 528 was pulled by lightning. Was that correct?
Yes.
He is not here, but go ahead and read it, please.
The bodily injury lawsuit of Ramon McPherson in the sum of $40,000 resulting from a motor vehicle collision involving the Portland Police Bureau.
Any questions or testimony? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hardison. Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. 532, please.
532, application under the multiple unit limited tax exemption program under the inclusionary housing program for Willis Apartments located at 1627 North Willis Boulevard.
Great, and I will just point out again, this is now joining 59 other private sector projects in inclusionary housing. That's led to about 400 permanently affordable units within the city of Portland. Was there public testimony on this item? Who pulled it?
Lightning.
He's He's not here. No testimony. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Daly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. 534, also pulled from the consent agenda.
Authorize the Director of the Bureau of Environmental Services to execute certain lease documents with BNSF Railway needed for fire suppression maintenance.
Who pulled this?
Lightning also put this
Very
one.
good. Any public testimony? Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Daly. Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. We are adjourned till 10 a.m.